Hi, my name is Destiny, and I'm going to be talking about hope or tragedy and what the title implies, and kind of about how hope is discussed in this book. So, when I first picked up the book, hope or tragedy kind of meant that when I what I thought the book was going to be about was someone was going through something unfortunate, and it's kind of like it was maybe even deadly because when I hear the word tragedy, I immediately go to death because that's you know where you hear the word tragedy the most. So um, I thought it was someone who was dealing with unfortunate events and needed hope. Kind of needed hope to get them out of that situation. And I guess in the book, it wasn't working out, and Um, and I agree with my initial thoughts about it, but I also want to go into it more because not only is it about, how about someone who is going through something needing hope, but it's also about how kind of hope, how needing hope itself is a tragedy, about how hope itself is the tragedy, based off of, who's doing the hoping and what the hoping is for. Based off of those two things, it's kind of like, well, that's crazy, that you need to wish for better days or wish for this. For example, like what hope is for if someone's been starving or if someone's in a bad situation that they need to get out of, but they have no way of doing it, Hope is really the only thing that I have left. And that's kind of tragic in itself to, say, to, have nothing but a piece of yourself believing that the situation will change due to some or an unforeseen circumstance. But it's also crazy about how, how there are different people in the world who need hope, because it's not only good people, it's not only good honest people who go around hoping for better days because life isn't fair to them. It's also bad people, and I want to take it from page 39 when Professor Jove was talking, when Professor Jove connected Hitler and hope together. And he says, "Optimist," said Professor Jove. "Hitler was the most unabashed, doe-eyed optimist of the last 100 years. That's why he was the biggest monster. Have you ever heard of anything as outrageously hopeful as the final solution? Not just that there could be a solution to anything, mind you, while we have yet to clear the common cold, but a final one, no less, full of hope, the Fuhrer was. A dreamer, a romantic even, yes. If I just kill this one, gas that one, everything will be okay. I tell you this with absolute certainty. Every morning, Adolf Hitler woke up, made himself a cup of coffee, and asked himself how to make the world a better place." Now, this quote takes on a different meaning, takes the idea of hope and presents it as something darker than what hope is usually seen to be. Because he's right, it does take a lot of hope to believe that, there is a way to change the world, that you have that way to change the world. And then it takes a lot of confidence for you to stand up in front of millions and thousands of people and try to pull that off, So it's kind of, a lot of hope that everything will go right. And it was, and Professor Jove is kind of hitting the nail right on the head, or, the author is kind of hitting the nail on the head, when he says that, um, he just, it was very outrageously hopeful is what he uses. And it was outrageously hopeful for, someone to claim that they had the solution, and not only the solution but the right solution at that. you know a lot of people disagreed with him, but a lot of people disagree with him. If you don't disagree with him, then, I don't know about that. But, a lot of people disagree with Hitler. So obviously a lot of people feel like his solution wasn't the right solution, but at the same time, he felt like his solution was the right solution, and that was enough for himself. So that's where hope can kind of be tragic, because we can see that, hope can lead to crazy and terrible things for other people, as well as hope being needed for those terrible things for people, because it's kind of like a circle. Hitler needed the hope and the confidence to believe that he had the solution for making the world a better place. But also you have, you know, those in concentration camps and those in hiding and those, living their lives in fear, hoping that, some something would stop what was happening to them. So it's kind of like tragic all around when you look at it. I also want to talk about um, Professor Jobs and the authors, kind of mention of the chicken crossing the road and suicide, because I feel like that is true as well. Or I agreed with the statements said, that it's, kind of crazy to think that whatever side you're on is not the best side of the coin. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's like, you don't know. And I think that's the biggest thing about hope. I think that's what makes hope so tragic, is that you really don't know. You're just sitting there, not sitting, but you're where you are in life, and you're hoping and you're praying and you're consulting a higher higher power for your situation to change, and it could change for the better or it could change for the worse. You don't know. Hope doesn't always work. You can have as much hope in the world as you want, and you can still be in your situation. But on top of that, once you get out of your situation, it's kind of like you don't know where you're going to be next. And I think that's I find unknowing and uncertainty one of the most scariest things for myself, because I like to know things. I don't like to not know. But um the chicken, with the metaphors with the chicken crossing the road, about how they didn't know whether they didn't know it was on the other side of that road, and it took so much to get to that side of the road, just to get there and find that, life is not sweet over there, and they'd rather have it where they were. Then they can't get back. Or they can get back, but only a few of them get back. Because they all had this idea that whatever was on the other side had to possibly be better than what they had now. And that same logic applies with suicide. You know what I'm saying? We don't know about an afterworld. We don't know about what happens. We don't know if we're just everything goes dark and our minds are gone. We don't know if we're looking down from beautiful clouds or looking up from a fiery pit. We don't know what's happening. We really don't. So to go and do something that extreme, because I find suicide very extreme. I don't find it right or wrong, but I find it an extreme measure to take. So for you to go to that extreme, or that to go that far, because life is just that terrible, or whatever reason you go that far, kind of is like, well, wow, well, like, what about what's on the other side? Really, we don't know. It takes a lot of hope and a lot of courage to pull that off, in my opinion. People who commit suicide are probably the most strongest people in the world. I know people see them as weak, but to have the courage and the hope that whatever comes next, or to actually end what's happening now, it's kind of like, kudos to you, because I don't know if I could, even faced with the decision, the world was ending or I could end myself. I would probably watch the world end, because I'm just not strong enough to, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I don't know. Like, people who actually can go as far as to do what they have done or whatever, take their own life. I feel like they're really strong people. Those that you can't fake that kind of strength, because it takes a lot of courage, especially since in our own ways our body fights against death, So it's kind of like, for you to be able to fight against all of that and still, do what you do, is kind of like very, 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 there's a lot of strength involved, and a lot of hope involved. So, with that, I enjoyed this book very much, and I find it very interesting, and I going to start actually reading part 2 now. I already started, but I really like it, and I want to see where it goes. Especially with Kugo, because I find him so interesting. And at first, I was like, if he doesn't tell his wife, like, yo, I was like, if you don't tell your wife, you know, and I find him kind of on the same plane with the professor and the ghostwriter. Not that they're the same person, but kind of in that same aspect of they don't know, like, not that they don't know, but they, like, there's their bubble and then there's the outside world. But I feel like Hugo is has a lot more dialogue and says a lot more than the professor and a ghostwriter did. But that's just a that's just a sidebar. So I'm gonna end it here, and I was about to say duet me. This is not TikTok. So, reply. Tell me what you think. If you agree or disagree, I would definitely want to have a conversation about it, because this book is really interesting. Really interesting.